At dinner, my twin brother stood up and announced his engagement. My dad got to his feet and said, "Finally, one son who isn't a total letdown. Unlike this sorry excuse who couldn't even hold on to a wife." Then my mom added, "We should have just picked one embryo. We always knew which one would screw up." Everyone, including my nieces and nephews, started laughing and pointing at me. I just gave a quiet smile and left. 6 months later, that same father was kneeling in my living room, begging me for help because my golden boy brother had burned them all. Sorry for the long post. It ended up way longer than I thought. I've been thinking about sharing this for weeks. Deep down, I've always known my family played favorites, but what happened last month pushed me over the edge. I'm 36, and so is my twin brother Paul, obviously. We might look alike, but our lives are complete opposites. Paul's always been the golden child, smarter, more popular, better at sports. I wasn't bad, just average. But my parents never tried to hide how much more they loved him. I heard, "Why can't you be more like your brother, at least once a week?" I married young, at 24, to my college girlfriend. It was okay for a while, but we slowly drifted apart and divorced last year. Nothing messy, no cheating. We just wanted different things. Meanwhile, Paul's been dating Caitlyn for 3 years. The whole family adores her. She's fine, I guess. But to my parents, she walks on water. Last month, my mom messaged the family group chat about a special dinner. I nearly skipped it, wish I had. But you know how families are. You keep showing up, hoping maybe this time will be different. I got there a little late thanks to traffic, and everyone was already settled in. My parents, Paul, Caitlyn, my older sister and her husband, their 3 kids, and a few aunts and uncles. I grabbed a beer and tried to stay under the radar, like I always do. Halfway through dinner, Paul stood up, tapped his glass, and announced his engagement. Everyone cheered. I smiled, stood up, and said congrats. I meant it. He's still my twin. I wanted to be happy for him. But then it all went to hell. My dad, 3 beers deep, got up and actually shouted, "Finally, a son who's not a complete disappointment," while pointing straight at me. The room went dead silent for a second. Then my mom said, "We should have only picked one embryo. We always knew which one would mess it all up." And just like that, the room exploded in laughter. Not nervous chuckles, real, genuine laughter. My 12-year-old niece was giggling and pointing. Paul's future in-laws, who I'd just met, were smirking. Paul just stood there looking smug, like, well, better him than me. I should probably mention I've always been the family joke. But this was something else entirely. I counted to 15 in my head while they kept cracking jokes about how at least one twin turned out right. Then I stood up, gave a small smile, not a happy one, the kind you give when you finally see things for what they are, put $40 on the table and walked out. No drama, no yelling, no tears, just silence. My phone started blowing up before I even got to the car. Mom, don't be so sensitive, it was a joke. Dad, be a man and get back in here. Paul, bro, chill, it wasn't that serious. My sister, why do you always ruin Paul's moments? I sat in the car reading those texts, and something inside me shifted. Or maybe it finally snapped. I blocked every one of them, Mom, Dad, Paul, the whole family, on my phone and every social app. The only one I didn't block was my cousin Vanessa. She wasn't at dinner, and she's always treated me like a real person. That was 6 weeks ago. In that time, I moved apartments. My lease was up anyway, changed my number, and basically vanished from their radar. Vanessa told me they thought I was just throwing a tantrum at first, until they realized I was serious. Honestly, it's been peaceful. Like, I never knew how much energy I spent dreading family dinners or recovering from them. My therapist, started seeing one after the divorce, says I've made more progress this month than in the last 6 combined. But here's where it gets interesting. Through Vanessa, I found out Paul's life isn't as perfect as it looks. That big job promotion fell through. Their picture-perfect house on Instagram, they're buried in debt. The big engagement party, quietly postponed for unspecified reasons. Meanwhile, I've been focused on myself. Hit the gym. Reconnected with old friends. Yeah, the ones my family always mocked. And I finally launched that side hustle I kept putting off, selling. Custom gear online. Nothing huge, but I made my first $1,000 last week. Then yesterday, Vanessa calls me. My parents have been asking about me nonstop. Getting desperate. Not because they miss me. Not out of guilt. They need something. She doesn't know what yet. But I'll find out soon. And now, here I am. A part of me wants to cut them off forever. Another part wants to show up, look them dead in the eye, and let them see what it feels like to be ignored by the failure they mocked. I haven't decided yet. But for the first time in my life, I'm the one making the choice, not the one trying not to disappoint them. Drop the next part when you're ready. When my mom said they should have just picked one embryo and clearly meant not me, everyone at that dinner laughed, even the kids. I just smiled, stood up, and walked. Out. That night I cut off every single one of them. Everyone except Vanessa, my cousin, who's always been chill. It's been about 3 months since then, and honestly, it's been strangely peaceful. Like I didn't even realize how much mental energy I wasted just bracing for their next jab. My new apartment still has a leaky faucet and the internet craps out whenever it rains. But you know what I don't have? Constant texts about how Paul just got a new car, or how disappointed my parents are that I'm still single. About a month after cutting contact, I changed my number and moved to a quieter part of town. Nothing fancy, just a smaller place with good sunlight. My therapist told me I'm showing signs of something called post-traumatic growth. It sounded fake at first, like something she made up to make me feel better, but apparently, it's real. Things got interesting about 6 weeks ago when Vanessa texted me asking to meet up. I hesitated, thinking she might be there on my parents' behalf, but I went. She's always been solid. We met at a little coffee shop near my new spot. Side note, for the folks asking, no. Vanessa and I are not a thing. She's basically a sister to me and very happily married with a baby on the way. When she showed up, she looked exhausted. Bags under her eyes like she hadn't slept in days. She barely sat down before dropping the bomb. Paul's life is falling apart. Apparently, a week after I went no contact, Caitlyn found messages from 3 different women on his phone, and not ancient history either, like recent stuff. I wasn't totally shocked. Paul's always had a wandering eye, but I figured he'd finally settled down. Vanessa said the engagement is on hold while they figure things out. Those were her words, but she made finger quotes while saying it. Translation: Caitlyn's parents already paid deposits and don't want to cancel yet. Then came the next layer. My dad's business is tanking. I won't get too detailed because privacy, but his main client dropped him out of nowhere. Just like that, half his income gone. I sipped my coffee while she talked. It didn't feel as satisfying as I thought it would. I didn't feel happy or angry. I felt nothing. Just empty. Then Vanessa hit me with the big one. My parents and Paul have been scrambling to track me down. They've shown up at my old apartment multiple times. Sorry to whoever lives there now. They've called people I used to work with. Even tried asking my ex-wife's friends where I moved. Why? Because they need money. A lot of it. Turns out Paul wasn't just cheating. He was also screwing things up at work. Not illegal, I think, but bad enough to get demoted and put on probation. That fancy apartment downtown? He can't afford it anymore. The BMW he showed off all over Instagram? Might get towed any day now. And my parents, who've been living above their means forever, are finally realizing that the golden child isn't going to save them. Their house needs a new roof. Mom maxed out every credit card. Dad's business might not survive till Christmas. I didn't even blink. I just sat there, sipping my coffee. Then Vanessa slid her phone across the table and showed me a bunch of texts. From my mom. "Tell Ian we need to talk. This isn't a joke." Another one said, "Your father is having health problems from the stress." And the best one, "If he's still mad about the dinner, he needs to grow up. Family helps each other." I actually laughed out loud in the middle of the cafe. Like, where was all that family helps family talk when I was couch surfing after my divorce? Or when I needed $800 to fix my car last year, and they told me to manage my money better? Like Paul. Vanessa didn't pressure me to reach out. She just wanted me to know what was going on. Oh, and apparently Paul's asking about my side hustle now. Says he remembers I'm good with internet stuff and wondered if I'd help him out. The sheer nerve. I thanked Vanessa for telling. Me walked her to her car and she gave me a hug. Told me she was proud of me for standing up for myself. That was the first time anyone in my family ever said something like that to me. After that talk, I went home and made a pros and cons list about reconnecting with my family. The cons list was 2 pages long. The pros side was completely blank. So I kept doing what I've been doing. Nothing. Then last week, everything changed. I was in the grocery store and ran right into my dad in the cereal aisle. I'm not exaggerating. It was like bumping into a ghost. He looked 10 years older, all gray and sunken. His cart had cheap bread, instant noodles, and knockoff brands. For a split second, I actually felt bad, until he opened his mouth. He started by calling me immature, said I needed to grow up and stop acting like a child. I stayed silent. Then he tried another angle, how he and Mom missed me. When that didn't work, he finally came out with it. "We need you to lend us $50,000. I stared at him. This man who straight up humiliated me in front of the entire family now wanted me to bail them out. I calmly said I didn't have that kind of money. He rolled his eyes and said he knew about my little internet business. It's literally a small Etsy shop that makes a couple $100 a week. Then he said, "Family comes first." And I looked him right in the face and said, "No, it doesn't." Left my half-filled cart and walked out. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. Since then, they've been ramping up. Paul somehow found my gym and waited for me in the parking lot. No clue how he even knew where I go. Mom left a crying voicemail on my work line. And yesterday, Dad messaged my ex-wife on Facebook, asking her to talk some sense into me. Then this morning, I got a letter in the mail that looked like it came from a lawyer. Drop the next part when you're ready. I got this formal-looking envelope in the mail, an invitation to a family meeting at my parents' house this weekend. The wording was oddly professional, like they were trying to schedule a business pitch. The last line actually said, "We have a proposition that will benefit all parties involved." I'll admit, it made me curious. Not curious enough to help, but just enough to wonder what exactly they thought they could offer me. I've spent my whole life handing out second chances to people who didn't earn them. Maybe now it was time to flip the script. Whatever they were planning, I wasn't the same pushover who walked out of that dinner 3 months ago. I had real boundaries now, and no amount of emotional guilt tripping was going to make me cross them. I told Vanessa I'd update her if I decided to go. A part of me was tempted to ghost them forever, just disappear. But another part of me wanted to see if they'd actually learned anything at all. Spoiler, I never showed up. I thought about it for a day and realized going would just open the door to more manipulation. So instead, I sent Vanessa a quick text, saying I wasn't coming, turned off my phone, packed a bag, and went camping alone. Just me, a sketchy tent with a hole in it, and some freeze-dried meals that tasted like regret. And honestly, it was perfect. When I got back, I turned my phone back on and it was chaos. 15 missed calls from unknown numbers, 7 voicemails, ranging from weepy mom mode to furious dad threats, and 1 message from Vanessa. They're screwed. Paul got fired. Call me. I called her while making the saddest burnt toast ever, and she filled me in. According to my sister, who apparently spilled everything to Vanessa, Paul hadn't just misused a few resources at work. He'd been using company accounts for personal stuff, big stuff. And when I didn't show up with the magical bailout money, he panicked and tried covering his tracks. That only made it worse. He got fired, and now he might even be looking at legal trouble. I didn't feel happy about it. Just numb. Like watching a slow-motion train wreck you warned everyone about. 3 days later, I got a knock on the door. At 6 a.m. I opened it expecting a delivery. Nope, it was my whole family. Mom, Dad, Paul, even my sister. All standing there like a zombie parade. Dad's eyes were bloodshot. Mom's mascara was smeared. Paul looked like he hadn't changed his hoodie in a week. My sister looked like she wanted the ground to eat her. I almost shut the door in their faces, but curiosity got the better of me. I stepped outside. I didn't invite them in. Boundaries, remember? Dad started this weird monologue about how family needs to stick together and blood is thicker than water. Mom kept trying to hug me while complaining it was hard to track down my new address. Paul wouldn't make eye contact. My sister stood there like she regretted every life decision. Then Dad finally got to the point. Things had gone from bad to full-on disaster. His business, basically gone. Suppliers were demanding upfront payments because his credit's trashed. They took out a second mortgage. Paul's being sued. Mom's racked up debt on 12 different credit cards. My sister's husband lost his job, and now her whole family's living at our parents' house. Oh, and Caitlyn, she dumped Paul on Instagram. Publicly, tagged friends, family, everyone. Just laid it all out. The golden child had officially crashed and burned. I just stood there on my porch in my old Star Wars tee, feeling strangely calm. 3 months ago, I would have jumped into action, found ways to fix things. Probably. Ruined my own finances to rescue them. But not now. Then, this part's wild, my dad literally got on his knees. Not a metaphor. He dropped to the ground and begged me for help. Said they needed $100,000. I asked him flat out, "Why would I help the people who humiliated me?" Mom cried. Said they didn't mean it. Dad mumbled something about just joking. Paul muttered they'd make it up to me. But here's the thing. Not one of them really apologized. Not directly. It was all, "We're sorry you felt that way," or, "You know how Dad gets after a few drinks," or, "It wasn't that bad." I told them I'd think about it and asked them to leave. Dad tried pushing back, but I stood firm. They left looking defeated. I made coffee and booked an emergency session with my therapist. We went over my options and how to protect my peace. I decided I wouldn't completely walk away, but I wasn't going to be their personal ATM either. The next day, I invited just my dad over. When he showed up, he looked like he thought I was going to hand him a check. I didn't. Instead, I sat him down at my wobbly kitchen table and laid out my conditions. First, a written apology from everyone who was at that dinner. Second, mandatory family therapy, 6 months minimum. Mom gets real help for her spending issues. Paul owns up to his mess without dragging anyone else down. I'd help them restructure debt and build a real budget, but I wouldn't be writing checks. Dad's face went through every emotion imaginable. He said I was being unreasonable, that real family doesn't put terms on love. I got up, opened the door, and told him those were my terms. Take them or leave them. 2 days later, Vanessa sent me a screenshot of my mom's Facebook rant. Something about ungrateful kids who forget where they come from. Classic. Playing. The victim like always. But then something unexpected happened. My sister called. We hadn't spoken since that dinner. She was crying. Said she couldn't live at our parents' house anymore. That her kids were picking up the toxicity. that she was genuinely sorry for not standing up for me. For once, someone actually apologized. For real. I invited her and her family over for dinner. We talked late into the night after the kids fell asleep. She told me her marriage was falling apart, that her husband had been lying about money, that she went along with the Ian's the failure narrative just to survive in that environment. So, we made a plan. I helped them with a deposit on a new place. Only money I've given. Anyone, by the way. I'm helping her husband update his resume. She's going to therapy and learning to set her own boundaries. Then, a week later, Paul emailed me. No apology, just his resume and a note asking if I'd refer him at my job. I didn't respond. Then yesterday, the biggest shock. My dad showed up again, alone this time. He looked small, defeated. And for the first time in my life, he actually apologized. A real apology. Said they always treated me like the lesser twin. Admitted he was jealous that things came easier to Paul and that he projected that frustration onto me. Said he was wrong about everything. Then he asked if my original offer still stood. Not the money, but the therapy, the budgeting. I said, yes, but the terms haven't changed. No skipping steps, no pretending it never happened. He agreed. Family therapy starts next week. Mom's still making excuses, saying she's too busy, doing what, I don't know. She doesn't even have a job. Paul says he'll go, but he's acting like he's the victim. My sister and her family are all in. Look, I don't think this fixes anything overnight. Family trauma doesn't vanish in one session. But for once, I'm not carrying it all. I'm not the punching bag. I'm not the failure anymore. The place with the leaky faucet and wobbly table, it's not much. But it's mine. And now when my family steps through that door, it's on my terms.